The pandemic didn't ruin your puppy or dog. Please stop using that excuse. It is not true. It may have roadblocked some training. It didn't ruin them. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dog Sense. I am your host, Kathy Sando, and I'm joined by my co-host, Sarah.
Hey everyone.
Okay, so Sarah, this episode is something we've been talking about for a while, and it is near and dear to our hearts. And it's basically our version of a love letter to our students. Love letter, because it is really what we want our students to know that maybe they don't know at this very moment. And please, can I start? Please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So your patience will be tested. Just because you're in our awesome program, whether it's online or in person, does not mean this is now going to be a walk in the park.
Not even like just within your training journey, because yes, within your training journey, of course, your patience is going to be tested. But we also want you to know your puppy or dog is going to test your very soul, right? There's going to be moments when your puppy or dog just does something totally naughty and out of character, a lot of times in adolescence. Just know you're not alone. It happens to everyone. And to try to see the humor in everything. And remember, patience is a virtue, right? Try to keep that in mind when you're dealing with difficult things that you may be going through with your puppy or dog.
It also makes me think of the saying, this too shall pass.
Yes.
But only with training. Now, and we talk about patience all the time. We also talk about the fact that sometimes not you, but people think that dogs will outgrow things. They don't need to be trained. They'll just outgrow it. I want to know how that works with kids, like humans, when they're rude or they're just wild. Do you think they just outgrow it? But actually, I know kids who the parents thought that was going to work. And here we are. It didn't. So it's going to take time. It's going to take your commitment. It's going to take your patience more than anything else.
Yeah. And so again, another one too is the timeline of how long your training can take. And a lot of times I know there's a phrase that you always use, like, let me look into my crystal ball when people ask you that. And it's just like, we don't know how long it's going to take, but we know that for the life of how long you and your amazing dog are living together, you guys are going to be in some aspect of training. Maybe you're just maintaining, right? But training never ends. It's always a part of your relationship with your dog.
And this is part of the patience thing. I mean, it goes right back to that. They're like, okay, I've done this for 6 weeks. Like, why is my dog trained? I don't personally know what these people have done for 6 weeks that's made them experts. I also don't think they went to the gym for 6 weeks or sent their kids to school for 6 weeks. But we understand where that question comes from, though. It's coming from a place of frustration. What I like to say is your dog is not your phone, right? So you're not going to load an app on here and go, okay, I'm going to download it. Boom, it's done. And then your dog is trained. That's not what it is. Right. Like your dog is going through so many stages and you have so many stages of the training to go through that it's going to take an indeterminate amount of time. But we can pretty much say that within a year, you're going to be really, really happy. Probably not done if you're going into off-leash work, which you should. You're going to see progress in a week, in a day, right? But the whole package is going to take you a bit of time. And also depending on the dog and your commitment to doing this.
Right, exactly. And even people who they may decide to send their dog away to a board and train too. Even with a professional trainer who has spent 2, 3, 4 weeks with your dog, we're not giving you back a robot, right? It's still your dog or puppy. You still have to take the time to make sure you're consistent and make sure that you continue to keep up with this training to make sure that it always continues to progress and you guys don't start backsliding.
We like to say, and it's a great example, sometimes people they come to fast track or they go board and train and they're like, oh, my dog doesn't listen. But the dog listens to me. And now we built this car and we have to teach you how to drive it. Right. So if you don't show up and attend and dig in and learn this stuff, it's not going to work. I could hand you my best dog, my best trained dog and give it to you for a week. And if I didn't tell you what the owner's manual was, the operator's manual, in a week you'd ruin it. Now, I can get it back, right? But you could literally take a fully trained dog into your hands and ruin it because you don't know what to do. So it's really a double-edged sword. The dog has to get training and you have to get training too.
Yeah. And that leads into our next one really well. So it's also, so how important consistency is with your communication with your dog, right? But also your communication with your trainer about what things are going well and what things aren't going well, right? We can't help if we don't know where you might be seeing an issue until it becomes something dangerous, right? So you didn't let us know that the dog was starting to growl a little bit when he picked up a random sock or something, right? If you're not communicating with us and giving us all the details, we can't then help prevent something from becoming a serious issue.
And details also include your life, right?
Yeah.
You're getting a divorce. You got a new couch. Your mother's moving in for 3 months, right? There's things that we know about the holidays because everybody goes through the holidays. So we're all in that with you. But it's the things that we need to know that they impact your stress level. They impact your dog's stress level. So their stress level impacts how they perform. It's that Yerkes-Dodson curve that we could go into, but it's a little geeky, right? We know that they did a study and they found that an intermediate level of stress gives you peak performance, right? But any more stress, the performance goes down. And that's what happens to people. And it happens to dogs as well. So we need to know all the stuff, the good, the bad. And if you don't want to tell us in a class, send us an email, grab us after class and go, hey, just wanted you to know, not sure if this is going to matter, but I had to sell my house last night and we're moving tomorrow. There's a stress level that we should know about that.
Yeah. And then with consistency in your communication with your dog, a lot of times, again, this comes with you talking to us, because if we don't see you in classes and lessons and all of a sudden we hear you call the dog using 5 different verbals, right? Come here, get over here. What are you doing? Right? We can then, once we are able to see that, we can then explain to you that, listen, you can't use 5 different verbals, right? You have to be consistent. And every time you decide to give this command, you have to be ready to follow through with it, right? Either reward it or enforce it, whatever the case is, but we got to be consistent in our communication with your dog. Otherwise, it's not their fault when they get confused.
And since we're on the topic, can we talk about what your dog's name actually is? That you're going to use.
Leave it. My dog's name is Leave It.
It's Sweetie Bee, Honey Bear, Sugar Babe, like pick one. Pick one. You can have all the love nicknames you want, but in a command situation, there has to be the one, the only, and that's the one that you train to. And I'm telling you, dogs are confused, consistently confused about what actually is their name. So you need to get everybody on board with that. And speaking of getting people on board, getting your friends and family on board with the commands and what you're doing is important, but Mythbuster, it's not critical. I mean, people lose their mind about that all the time. They're like, oh my God, my husband says this, and my daughter says this, and blah, blah. And you know what? It sucks. Like, keep working on it. That's human training. That's a much longer program we have. It's very expensive and don't ask how long it takes. But the idea that I would teach my dog something and then Sarah would ask for the command incorrectly or not enforce it really does not impact my dog's relationship in training with me, because I'm fairly certain, and it happens all the time. Like, well, my husband might say a command and not enforce it, but guess what? The command is still great for me because I train the dog, and my relationship with the dog is when I say it, I enforce it, I reward it, it's fun. And so it doesn't really impact me at all. I think where it might impact people is they're teaching their puppy not to jump, right? And somebody lets the puppy jump and they reinforce that and reward it. The only thing I would say is your puppy will learn not to jump on you, but getting people on board for that kind of thing is more important than the general commands and things like that.
Yeah. And also, so keeping notes can also help keep you on track, but also keep your family on track too. Maybe you have a whiteboard on the fridge where you put down the commands that everyone that we're working on this week. Here's the goal, 3 commands. So the whole family knows what we're working on and can stay on track with each other. That's another good too. And also just so that you can refer back to them too. So you know what to then practice in your next session. You're not just kind of going by the seat of your pants and just doing whatever you feel like.
And I find that showing your family like, hey, look what I taught the dog to do, right? Yeah. They're kind of like, oh, I wish the dog would do that for me. Is saying things like, oh, you know what? I know that he pulls you out the door. Let me show you something that we're working on, right? And then they can work on it. Make sure that you praise them when you notice the dog is better, like, oh my gosh, I know you're working on this, Susan, and it's much better now. Like, good job. So you have to kind of support each other. And that's another big point. We want you to have a support group for you during your training journey. Now, Sarah and I are trainers. So obviously our students have us as their support group. They have our whole school, all of the trainers, all of the team. Like, we will support you. You can email us, you can text us, you can show up crying. It happens. And we're there to give you a hug or a high five or like a little scruff shake. Like, you need to do this. Right. Yeah. But you may not find that your support group is your actual family. You may find that they're more of the saboteurs, and that's okay. But I just want you to find 2 or 3 people, and it could be people in your training class, right, Sarah? We have that happen all the time.
Yeah, that happens a lot. A lot of times people within various different kind of levels of classes or lessons I'll then group them together and say, hey, if you guys want to go to a training hike, you guys both live a little bit down further south, you guys can pair up. Your dogs would be great matches for a neutral training hike together. And you can kind of find your training buddy friends that way. And it's so incredible for not only the human's confidence, but also the dog's confidence as well, because they'll feed off of that, right? If you're comfortable with the person you're hiking with and their dog, and you know where everyone's at, everyone's going to have a better boost of confidence when you're then working on those skills together with someone who also knows what they're doing.
Yep. Super helpful. All right. Here's one. I want you to listen to this, and then I want you to play it back 3 or 4 times. Then I want you to write it on your wall and tattoo it on your body. Ready? The pandemic didn't ruin your puppy or dog. Please stop using that excuse. It is not true. It may have roadblocked some training, but didn't ruin them. As a matter of fact, there are actually a handful of dogs that the pandemic and all that confinement did really good things for, because those puppies weren't going to be social. Those puppies, if they got exposed to something that was overexciting, might have really traumatized them. So there are a few that did okay with it, but the rest, your dog, take a moment. Let's breathe. Okay. Hurricane Katrina. You remember that? Everybody remembers that, right? So picture this. There were dogs who were on farmland, and they were having a farmland life. They're like, oh my gosh, I have acres. It's fun. I live in Louisiana. It's awesome. And then one day, boom, Katrina. Now they're in water up to their necks, and they wind up in a shelter, and they're in a 6x6 kennel with a concrete floor. And they're like, where the hell am I? And then suddenly they're in a van. They're going to where? Texas or everywhere. And then they go into another shelter. Then they get adopted by somebody who gives them a new name, and they have a new lifestyle in an apartment. But you know what? Dogs, they don't have rear view mirrors. They only look forward. And so if you keep hampering their progress by giving them this backstory of this is what it did to them, you're not going to progress. It's almost an excuse that gives you an excuse not to move forward. Right. So this is our real talk candor thing here. Like, now you feel like a real student if you're not one already. Stop saying that. Stop saying that. Yeah. And if you want to say something, say, you know what? During the pandemic, I didn't have as much opportunity to train, but I'm excited now that I do, which sort of dovetails into our next little one.
Yeah. So optimism towards your training and your dog, right? Try not to label your dog and then get stuck into that, right? So if you constantly say, my dog is aggressive, or my dog, they get too excited when they say hello to people. If you feed into that, it's going to feed into your training, and it's going to feed into your handling, and your dog is going to then reflect that as well.
You know, I don't think people do that with their kids, do they? Like, hi, this is my boy, Johnny, and he's neurotic. This is my daughter.
I think people should, though. Right? Don't do it to your dog, but do it to your kid.
This is my husband. He has a behavioral issue. Like, why would you say that? Like, stop it. That's it. And can we get on this? Stop introducing them as my rescue dog. Like, right. I'm adopted. I was never introduced. Like, this is my adopted daughter. No, I was somebody's daughter. This is your dog. Exactly. And it could be, this is my dog. He's working on reacting better towards people, right? Just like switch it up. Be optimistic.
Exactly. How you frame what issues you're working through can have such an impact on the positive nature of like then making those changes, right? Like you said, this is Fluffy. We're working on a calmer greeting when saying hello to other dogs, right? So like frame it in a way that instills what you want, right? But also isn't a negative, right? Because if you keep doing that negative thought stuff, it's just going to set you all back.
And this is the training note you give to somebody. This is Fluffy. She's working on better greetings with new dogs. So I need you to stay the hell away from me so that she doesn't blow the hell up. Right.
Perfect.
Get out of Dodge. Right.
And then turn around.
Details are important, but the way that you serve them up colors not only their perception of your dog, but also your perception. So keep it positive. As hard as it is sometimes, keep it positive.
Yeah. And I also like, in the way that you can hear me and Kathy talking about this stuff, training should be fun, right? It should be fun for both you and your dog. If you are not having fun, end your training session, right? If your dog is not having fun anymore, end the session, right? This should be a bonding experience for you guys. It should hopefully be the best part of your day. It's the best part of our day when we get to train our dogs. So it really should be a fun thing for you guys and not something that you dread. We don't ever, if you dread your training sessions, reach out to us because we want to help and we want to make sure that it's hopefully the best part of your dog's day and the best part of your day.
And even when we have challenges, right, Sarah? Like today I was out with Ray and I drive an hour each way to go to a different facility to give her experience somewhere else. And I was there for 2 hours. And at one point she was just being super silly. And like, she was supposed to be sitting there looking at me, but she wanted to go visit Betsy. And I was like, Ray, come, let's go. We're going to do this. Right. And it made me laugh. And I was light about it. I enforced what I wanted, but it wasn't like, oh my God, why aren't you looking at me like this sucks? Like, why are you doing this? Stop it. It wasn't that at all. It was like, it was funny. And it was also a note to me. Because my dog is a reflection of me as a trainer. So anything I see in her that I want to change, I know I have the power to do it. But, but I can tell you that was the most fun part of my day going there. And she did a lot of things really awesome. And some of the things I can see she needs work on, but it was super fun. So yeah, if it's not the best part of your day, Sarah's right. Give us a call.
All right, guys. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could like, rate, subscribe, tell a friend, share this episode somewhere. Our goal is to continue to create an awesome community of dog lovers and learners. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye, guys.